Hi, this is Jeffrey Cohen, President and Founder of Chicago Quantum, here to talk to you week 26. And we're going to talk about the quantum computing industry sector. We're going to talk about the industry sector. We're going to walk through a spreadsheet that I put together. And this is a work in process. There's still a lot more to do. Here's the spreadsheet. Of course, I'm going to make it a lot nice and big for you. It's there's a lot to talk about here. So the industry has changed significantly, even since our article in Medium. So we have an article out on Medium. It's probably got over 1,000 reads. Let's take a look. It was the quantum players, right? And so I had talked about the quantum industry, and it was fine, but such a long time ago. So we're going to take a look, see how many people maybe watched that or read that story. And now I'm going to show you the work in process for this story. So, it was a long time ago, wasn't it? Let's see. When did I review the industry? Oh my goodness. Look at that. 1,800 views from November of 2019. So that's 18 months ago. And you could see a lot of people read it, early on in 2020, but you still have some people looking at it even on July 1st. We had a reader. And so, just so you know, this writing this article made me $3.17. I've done about 8 hours of research and probably going to do another 8 hours of research. So we'll be making about 20 cents an hour on this one, but it's good work to do. So I'm going to explain the process, the model, and then I'm going to walk you through the data. And so let's do it. Making things fit nicely so you can see everything. So the way we did it is we have a quantum company, and many of these we know, or we've worked with, or we've researched in the past. And to be honest, they're all in the same boat. We're all trying to do new things. I've met CEOs of some of these firms, heads of commercial heads, sales heads, and we're all trying to find value. So the question always comes back is, hey Jeff, do you have a use case, a killer use case, right? Can we make some money on this? Can we get people to use the stuff and not just talk about it? And the answer is, you got to keep working. You got to find the information that you need. And so it starts off with the firm. So Rigetti, we know Chad Rigetti. We've met with him. We knew all the Q branch guys. D-Wave Systems, of course, we work with all the time. IonQ, PsyQ. So you see our firms, right? And then what we do is we estimate what was the amount raised or the amount spent. And so for Rigetti, we had read an update that said they had raised just under $200 million. D-Wave, just over $200 million. IonQ actually raised $400 million. They just did it the right way. They did a SPAC, and they, like a reverse merger. PsyQ has raised $458 million. So you go, and you'll start to see there's some interesting plays here, like Honeywell Quantum Systems and Cambridge Quantum Computing are going to do a spin-out merger. And so talk about a big dollar amount. $700 million was both spent and committed. The CEO of the firm is going to be Ilyas Khan, who was the CEO of Cambridge Quantum Computing, and Anthony Utley, who's the company president of Honeywell. He's going to be, acting as chairman. And so I think that's great, right? So they're merging. So what does this say? This says you got Rigetti with Q Branch. Love those guys, by the way. Great firm. Like a services firm. So you got hardware and services. D-Wave hardware. So we're part of the services for D-Wave. You've got IBM Research, which of course is leveraging IBM Research, but also IBM Services Delivery and Sales. So, there's a couple of these firms. You can keep going on, right? And so it's funny, making me think about this as I do the video. Accenture is all on the services, and I know they had conversations with certain hardware firms that I'm not at liberty to disclose, and so Accenture would be partnering with a hardware firm. You've got Alibaba. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but I know that Amazon Web Services, Bracket, and they work with third-party services providers. So that's their approach. You've got Google, and to be honest, I'm not sure how Google is going to play with the services. But so most of these firms are positioning themselves with hardware and services, which makes all the sense in the world, right? You're going to create a quantum computer, you need to be able to monetize it. Now, there are other firms that are just doing components. They don't need services. The most services they need is implementation, installation, and repair, maybe a little bit of design services. It's kind of like the brick maker. It doesn't have to become the bricklayer. In this case, you see 3 or 4 firms working towards that model. I make bricks, I sell bricks, I build houses. That's fine. That's Rigetti with Q branch, right? Or that's going to be Honeywell with CQC. But in other cases, right, I just make the bricks, Ion Q, or D-Wave systems, and I let other people figure out how to sell the bricks, how to build a house. And then you got other firms that are just house builders, right? That's like our firm, like Chicago Quantum, and there's others. Let's see if we can find a good one here. Multiverse. Multiverse is using classical and quantum software and services to serve the financial services industry. They raised $5 million. So very interesting, right? So I know some of those guys. I've been on a panel with them. We talked, and they're out in Europe and they're serving clients, and they are working hard to develop the use cases and to add value. So they don't make hardware, but they make the services. And you have Cold Quanta, right? They're in the hardware game. In fact, they sent one of their pieces of hardware up into space. That's actually really cool. They sent it up into space, I guess, on a NASA satellite. When atoms are cooled to extreme temperatures, as they will be inside of Cal, they can form a distinct state of matter called the Bose-Einstein condensate. So that's cool, right? And then you start to see the new laws of physics, right? Where everything's really cold, quantum physics takes over, not classical or Newtonian physics. So you got firms in other countries as well. So we try to mark down to different countries. So if we just take a look, each one of these I have a little bit of a write-up. And so I was trying to think of how to present this. First thing I'm going to do, so this is not a complete list at all. I mean, I've missed significant funding options here, and I've got models on how I'm going to fill in some of the smaller players, but the sum is $3.6 billion. So these firms, just what I typed in already, where I found something, $3.6 billion. We're probably in the $5 to $6 billion range in terms of funding or actual money spent on quantum startups, quantum hardware, quantum software, quantum services, and also the communication side, whether it's quantum key distribution or making those quantum repeaters and those routers, taking advantage of maybe benefits of transduction, which I don't know if we've invented yet, but so we can have a quantum network. That means that if you have a quantum event here and a quantum event here, you can connect them, right? And so if this is up, this is down. And it's okay because you can keep that connection through a quantum network. The way it mostly works today, I think the way they're thinking about it, is right here I have an up and a down. I take the up and I send it, right? So I still got my down. I got my up. Let me make sure you can see it, right? And so now, if I want to know where I'm at with my entanglement, I just read one of them. So if I read up, I know that's down. Boom. So starts off like this, but then you can entangle the pair, and then you separate them out over a network. It's cool if you could do it. By the way, that's our cat pumpkin. So let's start talking through some of the firms. And I've got a lot of notes here. I see that my picture is starting to cover up some of those notes. So I'm going to make my picture smaller. I think the content is more important than the speaker at this point. So, and I'm just going to give you some color. I'm going to talk about the firms I know. By the way, if you work for one of these firms, you watch the video, you know how to reach me. Shoot me an email, Jeffrey at quantum-usaci.com, and let me know what's going on. Let me know maybe you raised more money. I didn't know about it. Maybe you're trying to develop different things. So, and I started building out my spreadsheet. I don't really care about an as-of date. This is actually, I want to know the content or scope of work. And then this is going to be notes on funding. So we do have some work to do. So we talked about Rigetti, very early stage, has raised, I think, 3 or 4 different times. D-Wave Systems has raised as well. Great hardware, production hardware. It's been for sale for a long time. IonQ, relatively new. I remember maybe 2 years ago they were proving that they could do like a 11 qubit thing, which was great. By the way, I love it. They announced in March a $2 billion SPAC merger. But my understanding is they've raised $400 million. That's still a lot of money, guys. $400 million? Are you kidding me? For a firm that probably has 0 revenue. So I see this and I think to myself, 0 revenue, what's going on? Now SciQ, no revenue, right? They're still they're not quite in the ghost phase, but they're building hardware. Massively scalable hardware. Universal Quantum, this is Ion. So, and they've raised $5 million. Let's talk a little bit about how this Ion thing works. So you build an Ion trap. And it's maybe it's probably like 3 feet by 3 feet, okay? And that maybe fits 10, 20 ions. And you're holding them up, it's beautiful, right? You have a little chip, whatever, you know. So the question is, can I hook these together? Can I somehow hook together ion trap modules so that I can have 10,000 of them, right? I can piece them together like a puzzle. And the ions can move from trap to trap. That would be great. Now, right now, you have a laser. You have to point it at right there at the ion, which is, by the way, an ion is a molecule, right? Like it's out of a Wybiturin molecule, right? This is not a very large thing. You're shooting the lasers. You probably have to have a lot of lasers if you want to move a lot of ions, if you want to do a lot of computation. Think of an abacus, right? Where each one of those, the bars could be a qubit, and so it could be an ion. And so, you know, if you want to do a calculation, maybe you need 10 or 20 ions. And now you have to start, you know, keeping track of them, moving them around, knowing whether they're pointing up, pointing down. So that kind of stuff. So $5 million, pretty cool, out of the UK, Brighton. Quantum Circuits, $18 million. Don't know much about them. Quantum Motion, relatively new. They're going to do it the old-fashioned way using silicon wafers and CMOS technology. And they're going to do a spin-based qubit architecture. That's great. We know how to make CMOS, right? And so if you can get it right, we can make a ton of this stuff. Now, IBM Research, I just swagged it at $100 million because I know IBM, I used to work there, it's pretty frugal. But my guess is that number is well understated. I'm going to do some homework on that. It's interesting, Honeywell. So Honeywell was spending like $100 million a year. I mean, for them, this is the next big thing. This is the new mainframe, right? And so they're spending a lot of money. No payoff, right? Where's the payoff? Then you have Multiverse, $5 million, bunch of smart guys out of Europe. That's great. Then we go down the list. So Quantum Benchmark, I met with them years ago, right? They help people make the quantum computers. Atom computing, you know, Cold Quanta we met with, they do a lot of government, they were doing a lot of government-funded research. Silicon Quantum Computing, Sydney, Australia, $66 million. They just recruited John Martinez, which is a big catch, excuse me, Google, and they're going to develop a 10 qubit 10 qubit, guys. Oh, wait, we already have 10 qubits. How about 10,000 qubits, right? I mean, they're at the 10 qubit level. But that's fine. In Australia, you need your own industry, infrastructure. Why would you want to rely on the United States? So let's build some infrastructure, right? QNect is secure communications at room temperature. So this is interesting because I asked it in a tweet. I said, if they efficiently map the quantum state of flying quantum bits onto atomic media. So I didn't know that qubits fly, right? Or quantum bits fly. So I think there's some marketing going on here. I don't know what this is. So Riverlane IO, right? Delta Flow, software, operating system. Quandela, components and materials, right? Kind of the blocking and tackling. You need that stuff. Pascal out of France, hardware and hybrid cloud computing. So they're going to develop, analog and digital quantum processors. They've gotten support from the armed forces of France. They already are working on a project with Multiverse and Credit Agricole. So kind of interesting, $30 million. Why not, right? Orca Computing, I haven't heard from in years. StrangeWorks. This is interesting because StrangeWorks, I think this is William Hurley's organization. They're more about education, professional services, getting people to think about it. They raised $30 million. I mean, I got to tell you, Chicago Quantum, right? We want to educate, right? Hope is greater than hunger. We're educating people about the need to go pack some lunches and some meals for people, send them overseas. You can feed a lot of hungry people. They have donors that give the food. They just need the labor to make the bag. So hope is greater than hunger. I hope everyone remembers. Go volunteer for your Feed My Starving Children. We're very supportive. By the way, they are not a sponsor of Chicago Quantum. Chicago Quantum is more like a sponsor. Feed My Starving Children. We love that. QNSys, out of Switzerland and Japan, right? They do a simulator, QLAC simulator, and applications. Quantum Circuits Inc. These are just other firms that we know about. Now, Cambridge Quantum Computing, you saw, it's being merged up. And so I'll probably have to just, add them up. ID Quantique, investments by South Korea Telecom, networking and security. They make hardware. They make quantum random number generators. They make quantum key distribution hardware. Good guys, a lot of research. Xanadu. Xanadu is going for photonics. They say they've raised $145 million. Christian Wiedbrook, we know Christian. He's very active on Twitter. He's very focused, making sure the right messages are out there. Photonics, and they also do, we need to put this out there, they also do software. They have Penny Lane, from the Beatles, and other languages. They're very helpful. Intel Corporation. Now, Intel stock is down. This is a tough time for Intel. We estimate they've spent $100 million, right? What they're doing, they're developing the wafers. So etched on silicon, big wafers, quantum computing architecture. And then they ship the wafers. Maybe they cut them to chips. I'm not even sure. They ship them to TU Delft, over in Europe, and they do all the research. So one article from a long time ago talked about $50 million invested. I assume they've doubled that. Google AI, again, it's a guess at $100 million. My guess is if you include the cost of the classical servers where they've done the tests, it's probably well above that. And this is really quantum hardware and what I'll call proof points. I love it. I love what they're doing. Accenture, I met with the team. They had a team, figured $10 million. Microsoft Quantum Azure, I figured 10 million. I don't know. This number could be 100 million. They're doing a lot of research into hardware, and they've also developed a product, Microsoft Azure Quantum. So, which is really other people's quantum, but still costs a lot of money to develop and launch a new commercial product. QSoft, now AT&T research into quantum communications. We know that's the case. We actually called them when we first started. We thought we would be able to just get funding, get help from AT&T. They're in the neighborhood. I knew some guys, right? They've done some good work, but they just weren't that interested. 1Qubit, haven't heard anything from them in over a year. Canadian consulting firm. We're just going to have to figure out what they've done. Zapata, $65 million, right? Consulting and software firm, building a platform. They just did a Series B, $38 million in November. Yeah, they've raised a lot of money. Alibaba, no idea what they've actually spent. I did hear that that group organization is spending $15 billion on research, so figure $50 million is pretty conservative. Tencent, knew the guys. This is mostly AI, analytics, and other research topics. I would say this is more on the application of quantum information systems. So good guys, right? It's a global team. British Telecom, $50 million. This is QKD. This is quantum networks, like the actual networks in the ground. Spending, and that $50 million could be much higher because some of it could be funded. Alpine Quantum Tech, build your own hardware, ion traps. No idea what they're spending. Amazon, figure $50 million. This is actually a bundled service along with third-party software and services. So that's their play. Toshiba, I'm estimating $10 million. Quantum key distribution, quantum dots. That number's probably low. I'll have to do a lot more work on it. QCware Corporation, right? They're a consulting and software firm building a platform, $15 million. And then HBAR, right, does the videos and some light consulting. Bleximo, I think, is consulting. Not sure. I met someone that worked there. Q Control out of Australia, they help the quantum industry make fault tolerant and low fault quantum hardware. I know they raised $15 million like 2 years ago. I was there when they announced it. IQM out of Finland, pretty interesting. You know, Finns have actually a whole bunch of companies that you're going to see. $90 million, hardware, superconducting qubits. That's the same thing like an IBM would be using or a D-Wave. Application-specific processors in a hardware-software co-design approach. So let's talk for a minute. This is interesting. So my phone has a chip in it for phones, which is great. The server has a Pentium processor, like an Intel chip. And that chip is for really any application, right? You program it, it'll run, whether it's Python, whether it's a web browser, whether it's a database, doesn't matter. But the idea that we're going to create an ASIC or an application-specific chip is very interesting. So now I'm very focused on what I need to try to accomplish. Okay. This is Blue Force. By the way, spell check is not my friend when you're working with names. So they make the refrigeration system. Big, mature company. QRA, Inside Quantum Tech is a media. Quantum Computing Report, media. Quantum Daily, media. We'll have to estimate what they're raising. Quantum Computing Inc. This is interesting because this is really a data analytics firm that does software development and has a product. It's classical work while they prepare for quantum. That's from an interview with the CFO that I had, a meeting at the CFO that I had about 2 years ago. They've hired some good people. They hired a guy from D-Wave that I know that I really like. No idea what they've raised, but this is a publicly traded stock. So we'll just see what the market cap is. Always interesting. NTT Research, NTT Data out of Tokyo, done a ton of work on computing. We've actually met with them as well. computing, communications, they're into the photonic space like Xanadu. Hitachi's doing work. Quantum Exchange has actually built a network. There are a number of automotive industry players. There's Ford. There's Volkswagen. And there's others. I think BMW. Just have to figure it out. But they've spent money. DoD, of course, has spent money. Nokia Bell Labs has spent money. Research. Pure research. But they have quantum lock technologies. They're creating a lock, like a bicycle lock. Runs on quantum. Quantum wormhole. No idea. Quantum microwave components. Terra Quantum AG just hired Valerie Vidaker, who I met early 2018. Sharp as a tack guy at Argonne. So they're doing something. Quantum computing engineering, Dark Star, Alpha Events. They do, as you can imagine, media and event planning services. Good guys. Work hard, put on a good show. New Quantum raised $5 million, single photon component. So one of the things that's tough sometimes if you're doing photonics is, how do I have high quality photons? How do I detect one photon? How do I send one photon? And how do I do it consistently? And one of the challenges is, this is a bit deterministic in many cases. So I want to send one photon, one almond, one photon. I want to send that, and I want to receive it, and I want to know that it was sent. The other way to think about it is that I could maybe send a photon, maybe eat it. At the other end, you're waiting for it. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. Maybe I ate it. And so now I got a position where I sent it, I didn't send it, it's up, it's down. What did I get? And I can actually do some communication security based on that. Did I send it? Didn't I send it? Is it up? Is it down? Where are you? Or am I just eating the almonds? That's pretty cool stuff right there. Single photon components, right? High quality photonics equipment. New Quantum. Agnostic, security, $80,000 round. Bait Tech, 1.4 mil out of Poland. Crypto Quantique. I don't know if this is the same as ID Quantique. I have to do it some more work. Protein Cure we met with as well. It's a specific application to understand and test proteins for use in the pharma industry. Let me give you an example of what this might look like. So protein molecules fold. They might stretch. Think of like in space, when you open up with the solar panels, and then they fold onto each other. What happens is they fold. Maybe it looks like this. And then you can do a drug that'll hook into the fold. But you got to make sure that drug is going to fold into just the right way each time so that they link. So once they link, once they connect, they fight a disease. Or you have a human body molecule that's supposed to fold a certain way and doesn't, and that's how you get like Alzheimer's. So it folds, and there's a gap there where, let's say, coronavirus hits, or something takes advantage of that little gap. So I can create a protein that's going to lock in and protect that space in the human protein. That's a ton of math. Forget about it. If you want to be specific on that and not just heuristically, well, it kind of folds, I looked at it in the lab, whatever, it's expensive. So Protein Cure, looking to use quantum computers to do that. It's a great application. Probably get bought by like AbbVie or someone if they're successful. So QU & Co., software and consulting, HQS Quantum Simulations out of Karlsruhe. This is the other molecule thing, right? Pharma, chemistry, predicting the properties of molecules and materials so that they don't have to do the wet work. You do it in a lab. You do it on a computer, do all your simulation and modeling. Then your wet work, where you actually create the molecule and test it, maybe you only have to do 1 or 2, not 50 or 100. And there's others, Qtra, Qnami, on and on. And so I'm just going to scroll a little bit slowly here. As SARA, we know that all the big defense contractors have a group. ARKit's interesting. ARKit Quantum Cloud, trademarked Quantum Cloud, out of the UK, has raised $400 million in a SPAC. They're doing a quantum communications satellite network similar to what the Chinese did. What was it called? Miscus? The Chinese one, it was from years ago. They did a call from Austria to Beijing, and it was great. It was all quantum protected. So this federated quantum system would help Europe to protect its communications. $400 million bucks. We have our eyes on them because that's a lot of money right there. And other firms as well. So, and you can see just very, very long list. Let's see if there's anyone else that I should talk about. If you're not on the list, give me a shout. I'm trying to be. I think the list right now is fairly comprehensive. I still have a bunch more work to do, and of course on the funding side, spending side, some of it we're going to model out. Oh, Qubit Engineering. We know those guys. Microsighting of wind farms using optimization on D-Wave. A cool use case. You're helping with energy efficiency. And it's so narrow, the focus. I love it. Right? Once you start getting some clients, you get a few more. Quantum Machines out of Tel Aviv, $25 million bucks. Hardware operations and control systems. So, remember I talked before about, and there's Pumpkin again. Remember I talked before about all the lasers? I got laser beams, like sharks with lasers, if you remember Austin Powers. And I got these like, almost like pallets of ion traps that I can then hook together. So the question is, how do I control all those ions, all those qubits? How do I read them, report them, reset them, do my algorithms on them, establish my faults on them, and go? I mean, I could almost imagine, right, an evil wizard with a keyboard saying, "Oh, I'm going to manage all the qubits. I'm going to fire those off, and let's reset those, and let's go." But I need an automated system to do that. I can't have a human doing it. There's too many qubits. Things happen too fast. So those control systems are going to be super important to scaling up your quantum computers, and that's the focus of Quantum Machines. Keep going on and on. Quantum Factory, Quantum Dice, Quantum Brilliance, Quantum Base, Quandela. Now, you guys know Booz Allen's out there. They've been working. NEC, Japan, Fujitsu at Japan, Baidu. I was surprised Infineon's out there. Now, I know Infineon's in the chip business, but that's great, computing with trapped ions. And they're also doing the security stuff. C12 Quantum Electronics out of Paris. They're developing a new processor, a new quantum processor. That's a good business. That's Intel AMD right there. On and on. QDevil, Rayco, QLM. So, net, tons of sources, lots of companies. We are up to 176 entries. Last time I did this, maybe there were 50. So we've tripled the number of companies, the funding numbers. Come on, 400 million, 500 million, 700 million. No way, I never saw these numbers before. So we're starting to see a scale up in investment in quantum. And first up, I think this is terrific. So congratulations to the industry players for making the move from scientists having good times at some of the conferences I remember, a little more technical, to going out and raising money. So that's it. That's the quantum industry. I want to share something else with you before we go. Just, I hate to not share anything about the markets. So we're going to do a little bit here. Let's start with the Finviz weekly. The weekly view. Where are we at? So this week, energy didn't do so well. The integrateds, equipment and services, exploration and production, marketing and refining. So the only thing that looked really good was midstream. Tough in the energy space. And what's interesting is the price of oil is still very high, but it's hard to keep up. Consumer defensive looks green. Just so you know, our computer model is starting to pick defensives. We're seeing more defensives in our top 50 than ever before. We're also seeing more telecom than ever before, which is important. So know that telecom's getting hot, consumer defensive is getting hot. So here's the financials. You can see not a great time for the financials this week. Regional banks are pretty much all red. Insurance is poor, very poor. The credit companies, the big four banks. So what I'd say is it's a little tough right now. So your financial service markets are a little tough. Look at that aerospace and defense. It makes you wonder, do they know something I don't know? Is peace going to break out in America? No more defense spending? Wow. I'd love to believe it. I'd love to believe that we have now peace in our lifetime and we don't have to spend money. But I don't know. So, but it's always interesting when you see the sector rotation. Airlines. Every one of them is either red or red. Okay, so in the S&P 500. So, recap. Financial services is down, aerospace and defense is down, energy's down, airlines are down. We see consumer cyclical looks pretty good. Restaurants look good. Apparel's up. Residential construction, lodging, auto parts is up. Consumer defensives are up. A little iffy on beverages and confection, but that's all right. That's food and beverage. I actually don't know if that's inflation based or not because of the. Think about it. You go to buy food. You go to buy beer. You go to buy any of that stuff. Tobacco. Where do you buy it from? You buy it from your local neighborhood business. Now, that means transportation. The cost of transportation, the availability of trucking transportation is down. The availability is down, cost is up. So if you're a beverage company, beverages are heavy. Can of pop, 5,000 cans of pop fills a truck, or 50,000 cans of pop fills a truck. Now you got to drive it. You can use up a lot of gas. The gas is triple now than what it was. Oh, by the way, Lake County, Illinois, thanks to our Lake County board, just raised taxes. Started a new tax on gasoline, 4 cents a gallon. So not only does the price of gas go up, but I think municipalities like Lake County, Illinois, have decided that they just want to pile on and make it even more expensive. So, interestingly enough, the stores themselves are doing fine. Costco, Target, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Walmart looking good. Because maybe they don't bear all that transportation expense, or maybe they've got such an efficient warehousing and transport system that for them it's a strategic advantage. When it's very expensive to get goods to the store, and your Dollar Tree has warehouses and routes, you're making money versus your competitors. So, or maybe they just push the cost back on the makers of the products, right? You got to get your product to my warehouse and maybe even to my end store, or I'm not going to sell it, right? So lots of things going on here. Real estate, not great. So when real estate goes down, then we start looking at things like interest rates. So let's take a look. Where are we with interest rates? I'm just going to do a real quick and dirty here. I spent the majority of the time where I wanted to, which was really focused on the business of quantum. So we're at 1.43 on the 10-year. It's really low. That is really, 18 hours. Really low. And so it was hitting 1.7, So the fact that it's at 1.4, I'm not sure. So we're starting to lag here on the system, so we might end this sooner than later. Oh, here we go. So if you look, really, since July 2nd, right, we've come down to this new low. So it was low, then it popped up, then it comes down. So when interest rates are low, people can start to be more comfortable putting their money into stocks, a little more risky, growth stocks. And some of your more defensive should be worse off, especially REITs, because, but I'm not sure. So I think there's an interest rate play here. If we look back over a month, you can see interest rates, they came up, but really not as much as you'd think, right? So if we look at it by the week, let's go for the year. You can see interest rates have risen from where they were post-pandemic, and they've been really flat. In fact, remember how we were doing the regression thing? Interest rates have been flat since February, mid-February. It's like a new normal at 1.4. 1.4 is not that high, especially as a 10-year money. When inflation is back up to 2% or more, now you're basically paying your government 0.6% to take your money. Please hold my money for 10 years and I'll pay you 0.6%. I don't like it. Doesn't make sense to me. The markets, well, we can take a quick look. What's worth talking about? Bitcoin stabilized at 34,000. I say stabilized because it was crazy. It was almost 70, and then it dropped into 20s. So I think it's just a trader's market. I think people just like to trade it. It moves. People make money going up, going down. It's not about the absolute value. It's about the momentum and the movement behind it. All right. Well, I'm going to thank you guys for listening. I'm going to flash up our website just in case you don't know how to find us. We are Chicago Quantum. We are Highland Park, Illinois Management Consultants. We focus on stock market portfolio optimization today. We also have a client in media and entertainment. It's always interesting for us. And we are Better Business Bureau AAA rated. And we recently created a live analysis report that we can share as a sample. All you have to do, fill out the report, maybe have a conversation, because I want to make sure you know how to use it. We'll send you a report. And if you actually want to buy an analysis, right? If you want to find that needle in a haystack, if you want to find the bull, right? Something you can buy. It's $150 if you give me the stocks. It's $500 to $1,000 if I give you the stocks. If I look at entire exchanges at once. 30-minute conversation deep dive, $100. On the downside, same thing. We have a shorty, right? We look for down stocks, right? You give me the 100 stocks, I'll tell you which ones to avoid or which ones are let's just say inefficient. Tons of volatility but no movement. And or for $500 to $1,000, we can go through all the exchanges and pick your losers for you, right? So why would you do that? Let's say you think the stock market's going to fall. You want a bunch of stocks identified that you could short. Because as the market falls, you short your way down, you make a ton of money fast. Or we'll actually work with you, whether it's, at a kitchen table, on our servers, in our office, doesn't matter. $7,500 gets you a person for 40 hours or more, and we'll help you code your dreams. So ultimately, we're looking at U.S. common stock markets using a quantum algorithm to find stocks. By the way, if you're interested in Turkey, our potential partner there, he dropped out. If you're listening, please give me a call. I'd love to work with you. But we actually built a model that would work in Turkey. We actually analyzed the Turkish market. It is very different than the U.S. equities market. Tons of learning. I was hoping this guy would come back. We could publish an article. We could really go crazy there. But if you're interested in a bit of a deep dive in another country, let us know. It looks like we can do it. If we can do Turkey, and of course we're doing the whole United States, we could pick your geo too. and possibly get you that competitive edge, because the hedgies aren't necessarily going to be focused on Turkey. They might pick the Turkish ETF. We find the stocks that'll beat the Turkish ETF, right? That's how we roll. So please think about that. And, if nothing else, you could take a look at our website. We got a lot of free info. I know some people like this. Got a whole bunch of Q&A. We've got negative beta stocks. We publish those. So if you want to look for stocks that move against the market, you want to bet against the market. Highest yielding stocks that have more than a 10% or more dividend yield. If you want to know what stocks we could run, Jeff, what are the tickers? Here's June 26 list of 3,627 tickers. Any one of those tickers, we can run for you. We can analyze them against all the other stocks. Or you might just use that as your starting off research list. Wow, Chicago Quantum gave me 3,600 tickers I could be looking at. I mean, that's nice, right? That. By the way, that takes hours and hours to run every week. And we just give it to you for nothing because we want you to learn about the market. And we also try to do a weekly update, a weekly blog where we post our videos. Week 25, we post the whole commentary. So some people don't want to read it in YouTube, so they can read it from our website. They can scroll down, maybe watch the video itself. What's interesting is I don't see the video. There it is. You click on the video right there. Hi, this is Jeffrey Cohen. How can I help you? So, all right. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. It's week 26, July 5th. Have a great week in the market. It's a short week, only 4 days, but plenty of time to make money. You take care now. Bye-bye.